Okay, so on Friday, we started talking about volume. Volume is actually easier than surface area if you understand the variables and what they represent, okay? The math is easier. You just have to remember more to get the math correct. So, volume of prisms, no matter what prism we are discussing, what is the formula to find volume of any prism? Nolan.
V equals capital B H.
V equals capital B times H. What does V stand for, Stella? Volume. Sophie, you might want to copy down the top stuff from Ethan while we're waiting. Volume. What does that capital B stand for, Sophia? Sophie, sorry.
Area of base shape.
Area of the base shape. What does the H stand for, Sadie?
Height of prism.
The height of the prism. Okay? How do I find the height of the prism? How do I know which side is the height of the prism? Harper?
It connects the two bases.
Yeah, it's the distance between the two bases, and that doesn't matter if it's a triangular prism, a rectangular prism, a pentagonal prism, a hexagonal prism, a dodecagonal prism. If it's a prism, if you're finding the height of the prism, you're measuring the distance between the two bases. So we started on number 8 down here. When we do these, you will actually have 2 formula steps for every problem. Okay, because depending on what shape you're working with, your second substitution formula will be slightly different. So, open up your highlighter. I want you to highlight where it says volume. Find the volume of each prism. Highlight prism. Because those words right there tell us what formula we need to pick out. What is my formula for volume of any prism? Livy?
Height of prism. Wait.
What is my formula to find the volume of a prism? Who can answer that?
Height.
No? Reese?
Capital V equals capital B times H.
Yeah, capital V equals capital B times H. We split that line in half because that is for any prism, okay? Our second formula is specific to the prism we are looking at. So capital B stands for area of the base shape. Haley, what is the base shape of that prism?
Rectangle.
A rectangle. How do we find the area of a rectangle?
Length times width.
Length times width. So in place of capital B, I replace it with the area formula for its base shape. And then the times H just also drops down. Now, in a rectangular prism, and we discussed this Friday, the first thing we have to decide is which side is our base. I think we all agreed Friday just to call this one our base shape. Okay, does it have to be that one? No, but we just have to make a decision and go with it. So if I'm calling that my base shape, Nate, what is my length and my width? So we substituted in for capital B, which is our base shape. So all of our focus should be on our base shape and the 5 and 3. So length and width of the base shape. So we have V equals 5 times 3. How do I find my height of a prism? Harper?
By the line that connects the two bases.
Yeah, it's the distance between my two bases. So if I call this right side one of my bases, the other base is over here on the left. So my height of my prism would be that distance right there between my bases. So that would be times 6. Now, you will be able to use a calculator on these because I'm worried about you putting the right numbers in the right places. Okay, I know you guys can all multiply if you take your time, but let's do this. And when we multiply, does the order matter? No, so in my head, I would do 5 times 6. What's 5 times 6? 30 times 3. 90. I'm kind of mixing this in here. So V equals 90. What is my label for volume? Jude? Cubic inches. So I put inches with a 3. And it's because we're multiplying inches times inches times inches. You guys know that if you're multiplying the same thing multiple times, you can just put a little exponent. But that's why it's inches cubed. Instead of writing 90 inches times inches times inches, we just write 90 cubic inches. Next one, who can tell me the name of that shape? Max, can you name that shape for me? A triangular prism. So what is the base shape of a triangular prism? A triangle. I want everybody to go ahead and highlight the triangle. That's going to be important in a second. When you're doing these, if it gives you a picture, I suggest you always highlight the base shape. It'll just help you process the problem a little bit. It is a triangular prism like Max told us. So Ethan, what is my formula to find the area of any prism? Okay, and let's split this formula box in half. V equals capital B times H. Who can tell me what does capital B stand for? Carter?
Base shape, base height.
Need a few more words. He said base shape. Area of the base shape, which we already decided the base shape is a triangle. How do I find the area of the base shape, which is a triangle? And I'm going to put this in parentheses. We're going to substitute in a new formula in place of capital B. We're doing the area of a triangle formula, which is what?
Base times height divided by 2.
Base times height divided by 2. But then I still have times that H. This is what students don't like about this one, is there's 2 different H's and they represent 2 different things. What does this H right here stand for? Haley? I need more. Height, because they both stand for height. You're telling me the right one. Can you put it into words, Ethan?
It's the height of the base shape.
The height of the base shape, which is the triangle. So the first one here is the height of the triangle. What is the second H for?
Height of base shape. Height of the base shape.
Height of the prism, which is the distance between the 2 bases. That's the hardest part here, guys, is figuring out what all of these letters stand for and being able to pick them out. So we're going to substitute in numbers for all of that. I'm going to leave room to kind of do some work. And again, I'm putting all of the triangle stuff in parentheses just to kind of keep it separate. So my stuff in parentheses is the area of the base shape, and then I just have times height of the prism on the outside. For my triangle, Addie, what is the base and the height of my triangle?
12 and...
Well, just the triangle. Just focus on the triangle. Base and height. 6 and 4. And I'm going to do 4 and 6 because base comes first. 4 times 6 divided by 2. So that's area of my triangle times, what is the height of my prism, Reese? 12. That is that distance right there, because that would be the distance between my 2 triangular bases. And again, you will be able to use a calculator. This one we shouldn't have to. Let's go ahead and simplify it together. What's 4 times 6? 24. 24 divided by 2? 12 times 12 is? Label? Inches cubed. Cubic inches. once you get that copied, I want you to flip the page and circle which shapes are prisms. Circle which shapes are prisms. Because this formula works for all prisms. First shape. Stella, what do you think? Is it a prism or is it not?
I said no. You circled it. Well, yeah.
So no or yes?
No. What?
Jude, what do you think?
No. What?
Someone tell me why it is a prism. Why is it a prism? Dane. It has two bases and rectangular faces. So this one is a prism. Can someone name it? Who thinks they know the name of the prism? A pentagonal prism, because it has two pentagon bases and it has rectangular faces. Now, pick up your highlighter. I'm going to show you something new. If we were solving this, it is a prism, so we can find the volume of it. Where would we get hung up trying to find the volume of a pentagonal prism? The base. Why would that get us? Why would we get stuck on that, Harper? Because we do not have a formula to find the area of a pentagon. There is a formula. We don't have to know it in 5th grade. So they could, 6th grade, sorry. You're barely 6th graders. I want you to highlight that pentagon. And then with your pencil, just write like 20 square units. And then with your pencil, label out here 10 units. I haven't even asked a question yet, and Harper already knows the answer. Harper, what do you think my question is?
How did I get 20?
No. It's not how did I get 20, because we don't know how to get 20. But that could be a problem that they give us, and we just have to know what it means. What do you think that 20 represents? Naomi?
The area of the base shape?
What makes you think that it's the area of the base shape?
Because the base is a pentagon and it has an area inside of it.
How do you know it's an area inside of it?
There's no other side.
Chase?
It's a square.
Because the label is square units. So here's where we got to bring together we're bringing together a bunch of things we've learned previously. We just learned today and Friday that to find volume of a prism, we need the area of the base shape and the height of the prism. We know triangles, rectangles, trapezoids, parallelograms, but we don't have a formula for area of a pentagon. They know you don't know that, and they don't expect you to know that. So they will sometimes give you the area of the base shape. But they won't say, hey, this is the area of the base shape, because they know, you know, the label for area is square units. So anytime you see a dimension or a number given with square units, they're giving you the area. Okay, and it actually makes your life easier. Why does it make your life easier? Jude?
Because then you don't have to find
Yeah, you don't have to find the area of the base shape. They already found it. So you would just have to take capital B times H. What's 20 times 10? 200 would be the volume of that pentagonal prism, okay? So sometimes they give it to us like that, and they expect us to know when we see square units that, hey, that's an area. Or sometimes they will put capital B equals 20 square units, and that's a little more obvious for us. It doesn't make us think as much. So it's not that we can't do it. We cannot find the area of a pentagon, but if they gave us the area of the pentagon, we should still be able to find volume. And actually, you'll like those ones better because it requires you to do less work. Okay, second one. Nolan, is it a prism?
No.
Why not?
It's a pyramid because it doesn't have 2 bases.
Okay, it's a pyramid because it only has one base. Can you name it?
A pentagonal pyramid.
A pentagonal pyramid. It has one pentagonal base and 5 triangular faces. Third one. Jalen, what do you think?
Nope.
Why not?
It doesn't have 2 bases.
It doesn't have 2 bases. Can someone name it? Dane?
Square. No. Pyramid.
A square bottom pyramid or a
Rectangular pyramid.
rectangular pyramid. Good job.
That one's a rectangle.
Next one. Stella.
No.
No, it only has one base.
Oh.
So is that even a polyhedron?
No.
No, because it's not made up of
Line segments.
polygons. Polygons. A circle's not a polygon. Anytime there's circles involved in 6th grade, it's just one of the weird ones. See, you just changed your mind, didn't you? Next one, Nate. This one down here, is it a prism? Yes, it has 2 square bases. What do we call that shape? A cube. Next one, Sophia. Is this a prism?
Yes.
Why? Back row, quiet it down.
Yeah.
Jude. Sorry, go ahead. Bases. Yeah, it has 2 triangular bases and 3 rectangular faces. Who can name it? Harper? Triangular prism. Last one, Livy?
No, because it's a cylinder and it doesn't have rectangles.
Yeah, so it is a cylinder. Some people would think that's a prism because they see 2 bases, but it's not because it's a cylinder. It has those rectangular sides, or it doesn't have rectangular faces. Okay, look at the bottom of this page. It says find the volume of each figure. Jude, what shape do you see on both of those?
Rectangular prisms.
A rectangular prism. How do we find the volume of any prism? Formula.
V equals B times H.
V equals capital B times H. Now I told you I want you to highlight the base shape. So where are we going to highlight? Addie, which side do you want to call the base? Front, top, or right side? Front. Okay, could I have said the top and the bottom are the bases? Could I have said the left and the right?
Yep.
Okay, but Addie wants to do front and back, so let's all highlight the front one. Okay, so we're calling that our base. I'm going to underline that with my highlighter so I know that's my base shape. You with me, Nate? Do you have a highlighter? Okay. What is the formula to find the area of that base shape, Max? How do I find the area of a rectangle? Length times width. So in place of capital B, I'm going to replace it with length times width because that's how we find the area of our base shape. And my times height drops down. Harper, what is my length of my base shape? So she's counting this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we label that 5. We'll substitute it in. width of my base shape? Ella? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's label it. Fill it in. Where will I count my height of my prism? It's base to base, so front to back. Reese?
The distance, the squares between the two bases.
Okay, so up here, where would that be? Where could I count?
Like on the right.
Yeah, I could count either this edge right here, because the back base would be like back there. So I could count right there, or I could count right there. I think it's easier here. 1, 2, 3. So my height of my prism is 3. Jude, what's 5 times 4?
20,
Times 3.
60
60. Ethan, what's my label?
units cubed.
Units cubed. Good job. Okay, I want you to take a second and try and work the next one. I want you to highlight your base shape. Will we all have the exact same work on this one necessarily? No. Decide on your base shape and then go with it. Okay, so regardless of how you set this up, and I tried to set it up any way possible, in black here, everybody should have V equals capital B times H because it is a rectangular prism. Then the area of the base shape can be found by taking length times width. So everyone should have V equals capital B times H. Everyone should have V equals length times width times height. Now, the rest of it's color-coded. If you chose the front side, mine's highlighted in blue, as your base shape, then you would have had your length and your width both being 3. And then the height of the prism would be this distance up here, which is 6. So you would have 3 times 3 times 6. What's 9 times 6?
54.
54, okay? If you called the right side your base shape, the length and the width of that rectangle is 6 times 3. And then the height of the prism, or the distance between those two, the left and the right side, is 3. So you'd have 18 times 3, which is still 54. If you had the top side as one of your bases, your work would look very similar. This green over here, 6 times 3 times 3. Okay, so regardless of which side you called your base shape, you should have came up with 54, what am I missing? Cubic units as your volume. Okay, go ahead and turn the page. Number 1, What is the volume of a cube with a side length of 3.2 millimeters? You have to know that a cube is a prism. Haley, what's the formula for volume of a prism?
V
V equals capital B times H. Okay. Carter, what shape is the base of a cube?
base
The base shape of a cube. A square. How do you find the area of a square?
S/2.
So S squared would work. Let's go with that. He said, so let's replace base with side times side. But if we do that, what are we also going to call the height? Side. Because with a cube, they would all be the same. Ella doesn't like that. I can tell by her face. So V equals, what were you thinking the formula for area of a square was? Would length times width times height work for a cube?
Yes.
Yes, but you would have to remember that the length, the width, and the height are all the same. Both of those are okay. You should get the same answer. And actually, you will probably do better with these if they're decimals and fractions rather than whole numbers, because your brain and exponents don't always work well together. So our substitution step, regardless of which one I plugged it into, would be 3.2. I'm going to use parentheses as my multiplication sign so that I don't have dots as multiplication and decimals. Sometimes that gets confusing. Then someone type that into a calculator for me. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, so it should be a little bit bigger than 27. 32.768, and I need a label. You with us, Nate? Millimeters cubed. Is that very big? No. Remember, this tiny little cube here is a centimeter cube. This is 1 cubic centimeter. So even if I made a cube out of 36 of these, it wouldn't be very big. And a millimeter is 1/10 of this. Okay, so this whole cube might be 32 cubic millimeters. So that's not a very big object. Okay, let's look at number 2. What is the volume of a rectangular prism? I'm missing a word. With a length of 8 meters, yeah, I think there's a typo there.
Yeah.
Is there a word after? Mine's. Okay.
It says rectangular prisms
Yeah.
with a length of 8 and width of
15.3.
Yeah.
And a height, I'm missing the next one.
6.5.
Of 6.5. Okay. So highlight the word volume and prism spelled incorrectly. I didn't make this, and actually I paid for this.
Do you pay for this?
Volume of a prism. Dane, what's my formula? Naomi, what does capital B stand for? The area of the base shape in a rectangular prism. What is the base shape, Chase? A rectangle. So how do I find the area of a rectangle, Chase? Length times width, and then my times height just drops, but that is the height of what?
The prism.
The prism, height of the prism. Substitute in our numbers. Addie, what is my length? 8. Sophia, what is my width? 15.3. Max, what is my height? 6.5. And again, why am I using parentheses for multiplication, Reese?
So you don't get mixed up what the dots are?
Yeah, so that dots and multiplication don't look the same. It's just an organization trick. So if you have a calculator, type that in. 0.6. Label. Jalen, what would my label be for this one?
Meters squared, or cubic.
Cubic meters. Good job. Would that be a very big rectangular prism?
Yes.
How big is a cubic meter?
As big as your meters.
Yeah, it's a meter stick as the length, width, and height. So it's like my hip. That's when you don't have a meter stick, like you guys are about normal sized. Some of us are below average still currently. So you'll get there, okay? You guys will all get there. Most people, though, a meter is about hip high in general. A meter is about hip high. So a cubic meter would be a meter. I won't get you today, Addie. Okay, that's about this big. Really about a little bit longer than a desk and that high. So 700 of those, that would be a pretty big 3D shape. Okay, next one. Find the volume of the figure below. We see volume, so we should come up with capital V. Then we have to decide what shape is that, Stella? Number 3, what shape is that?
A triangular prism.
It's a triangular prism, so when you hear the word prism, what should come behind that capital B? V. What should come behind the capital V? What is my formula for volume of a... Capital B times H is your only formula you're working with tonight. What does capital B stand for? Max? Area of the base shape. So where should my eyes go when I'm talking about my base shape, Haley? To the triangle. Highlight the triangle. My base shape is a triangle. So what am I going to substitute in place of capital B? Go ahead, Haley. Base times height divided by 2. And then we still have times height of the prism. Jalen, what does that first B and H stand for?
Can I like see like the numbers?
Well, like, how do I know where to look to find my numbers?
Like on your triangle.
Yes, we're focusing on the triangle. So the base and the height of the triangle are what?
10 and
10 times 8 over 2, because that's just focusing on the triangle. What about the other H? Sophie?
22.
22, how do you know?
Because it's the rectangle that holds the bases together.
Okay, she said it's a rectangle that holds the bases together. She's correct. It's the distance between the two bases, so the height of the prism. And again, we'll have calculators. Let's go ahead and simplify it a little bit. What's 10 times 8?
180. 880.
Shh, I didn't ask for an answer yet. I asked what 10 times 8 was. 80 divided by 2. 40. So really we have 40 times 22. 4 times 22 is 88. Add our 0, label. Meters cubed. Now, the next one I don't like because they're not correct. Someone find the error in the next problem. We could figure it out, but they have an error here. Just like they had a typo in number 2, there's a typo in number 4. Ethan, do you see what they goofed up on?
They don't have cube.
Stella?
I don't know if that's right, but they don't have the I just had it, but I kind of forgot.
Sophie?
They don't have the cubic on the
So you guys, I heard cubic twice, but we are finding volume. What are they giving us, Livy?
They're giving us the area of the shape.
They're giving us the area of the base shape. So what should this 34 be labeled, Livy?
Square.
Squared. Add in a 2 there. If they put that 2 there, which they should have there, they don't need the capital B out in front. Our brain should see centimeters squared and know, hey, that's an area. But we see a hexagonal prism. Ella, what is my formula to find the volume of any prism? V. Good job, capital B times H. Why do we like this problem a lot better than the last ones we worked, Jude?
Because it gives us the area.
Because we're 6th graders and we like the easier problems better, and this one gives us the area of the base shape. That's why it says capital B. So we just substitute in the number. 34 times, what is the height of the prism?
16.
16. Someone type it into their calculator. 544. What is my label? Centimeters cubed. So on tonight's homework, it may give us somewhere it gives us the area of the base. It will either say capital B equals, or it could just say that that top area is 34 square centimeters, which in your brain should trigger square centimeters is giving me an area. Haley. Yes, you can use calculator on volume. Okay, your homework. There are 2 more problems on this page. So you have those 2 problems, number 5 and number 6. And then flip to the back. On back, I want you to do 1 through 6. The only type of problem I've not given you is if it gives you volume and you have to find one of the dimensions. At the substitution step, which would be right here, you may be putting in like a number, like you may be putting 880 in place of V and have an H right there. Those will be tricky, but these are multiple choice. So once you get to that step, you could use guess and check if you can't figure out the math behind it. Now, this is multiple choice. Does that mean it's multiple guess? No. So what should be next to all of these problems? Work. You do not have to do number 7 on the back. Okay, but you may need to use that space down at the bottom to do some work for the other problems if you don't have enough space. So you have 2 problems on that page we're on right now, so 5 and 6, and then the back side all but 7. So you have 8 problems altogether. Go ahead and get going on them. And you can use a calculator.